Salute. I'm saluting my soldiers or my fellow soldiers. Well, here I am again with one update or another advice and what to look for if you come from the Commonwealth to join the British Army. Here I am trying to explain that the army is not your enemy and the army will do the best it can for you, especially some of the people that you will work with. In previous videos you could hear me speaking regarding my family situation with the Home Office. And I must say, I'm not the only person. This is not exclusive to me. I have known of many other people who came from the Commonwealth, whether it's from countries like Africa or countries in Africa or the Caribbean. I touched on a topic once where a Jamaican soldier had got deported after serving 2 tours in Afghanistan, came back with PTSD, got in a fight, spent some time in prison for GBH. If you get any sentence over 12 months and you haven't or you hadn't regularized yourself when you were in the army, you are still classed as a British Commonwealth person, a visitor, and you can be deported. Now, let me get to the meat of the matter with my situation, because I can only speak on my situation and other situations that are familiar with my situation. Now, my family joined me, like I stated, back in 2009, and my family, that was my wife and son. My eldest son didn't came at the time, as you know, I didn't understand the procedures, but he had known my wife as his mom since he was a child. So brief rundown on that. When I managed to get him to this country just before his 18th birthday, he had, you know, been able to came here on a indefinite leave to remain, so he is safe. The problem I've got is with my youngest son, who came with my wife and came as my wife dependent. He got whatever visa that my wife get at first applied. So my wife is my dependent and my son is my wife dependent. Because in this country, children normally take from citizenship that their moms got. So anyway, for my fellow soldiers, and I'm making every soldier aware, because for a lot of these guys that we serve against, if they had known what a Commonwealth soldier goes through in this country, they would have, you know, a lot of people don't agree. For the bosses and the people that are ahead, are at the top of the army, a lot of them know what we go through. Nobody speaks out. There was a time I have seen in the House of Parliament where they debate. If I can find the video, I'll put it up alongside this. They had a debate regarding why is it that military personnel wife have to be paying for visas, or even military personnel. The other day, I'm not going to stray briefly, when the coronavirus take place for migrant workers that worked in the hospital, they were going to be exempt visa fees. Now the visa fee is anywhere from 1,100 or 1,200, with also an NHS surcharge. And the NHS, for those of you who don't understand what the NHS is The NHS is the national health system. Now, so your husband or your wife will be in the army working for clean country, paying their taxes. You will be working also if you join them on a spousal visa as a dependent to a Commonwealth soldier. And you will be working. And if you didn't get your naturalization, what the Home Office does, it puts you on a visa called Family and Private Life, which takes away from the 4 years that you have already spent as a 4 year that you have already spent as a British, as a wife to a foreign Commonwealth soldier. Now, because no one will tell you this, they don't tell you if your wife came up on a 4-year visa, you can change that visa upon arrival to a 2-year spousal visa, which would give them. Oh, let me backtrack that. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So, for example, if by the time your family joined you, so you are now in the army 5 years, or if you were living in this country prior to join the army, and you're here like 10 years, now like you had stayed 8 years and you are in the army 2 years, make it 10 years, you hadn't been illegal or anything, you hadn't been in trouble, you applied for naturalization, you get naturalization, and you're now a British citizen. What now you need to do is to apply for a spousal visa as a British husband to so your wife will get a spousal visa. That would be a 2-year spousal visa, okay? This can be any point within that 4 years of she joining you on a 4-year visa. You know, for different cases, you have different situations will be different, but I'm talking about my case because I had lived here prior to joining the army, and I have lived here 8 years prior to joining the army, which I went college, I worked, and my wife came and joined me, and she joined me on a 4-year visa, which we have to pay for. I was always working. I was in the army working. I paid for her visa, and she came with my son. My son got a 4 years just like the mom. Now, before the 4-year visa had expired and my wife be off, I have now been living in the UK 10 years. I've applied for naturalization, for which I did get naturalized based upon, you know, long residency. So I've jumped from a British Commonwealth soldier to a British citizen, which render me back under the immigration system. Because when you're a British Commonwealth soldier, you are not under the immigration system under section 4.8 or 8.4 of the immigration system. You can look it up, or I will put a side note in the video regarding the section. Now, when my wife got that 4 years, 3 years in, or 2 years in, 3 years in, I've applied for naturalization, in which I got naturalization. But at the time, I was thinking that if her 4 years run out, then I could apply for ILR for her, which is indefinite leave to remain. No one, I tell you now, no one will tell you the immigration system, and never assume that you know the immigration system, because when you get caught up, because they're not going to tell you, they're not going to look on your files and says, but this man is serving Queen and country, this man, you know, he's an asset to the country, he's willing to die for us. No one will tell you anything. You'll take your money, your $2 grand, your $2.5 grand, your $3 grand, you will send that off, and you'll get a letter stating that she's not eligible, or he's not eligible for naturalization. And for this reason, we're going to put them, he or she, if he's a husband in the army doing it for your wife, or a wife in the army doing it for your husband if in the same situation, he or she now will come under the family and private life route, like I was stating earlier on in the video. Family and private life. Now remember that, family and private life. This is a 10-year route to naturalization. Bear in mind, the first 4 years that they had lived under spouse to a foreign Commonwealth soldier is not included in the 10-year route under the family and private life. So you now will think like I did. I thought, well, they said it's not 5 years yet. She can't get ILR because it's not 5 years. Not reading the rest of the letter, they took all my money, and I just thought, whoa, okay, so you take all the money for the ILR, you only give them 2.5 years each. And at this time, NHS surcharge hadn't came into play yet. So they gave both of them, because like my son lived from his mom visa, 2.5 years each. Now, at the end of that 2.5 years, the NHS surcharge kicks in, which was £500 at the time. So per person. Now remember, my wife was working, I'm working, we're paying all our taxes, everything. She pays it, I pays it, and turn around, we have to pay £1,000 for both for NHS surcharge, so they can have access to the NHS system. Remember, she has been working at this point for about 5 years. She has no recourses to public fund. That means she gets nothing from the government. If it's even a NVQ course that people get for free, she can't get it. And she's paying for everything, for everybody else to get. And I'm paying for everything with my life on the line. And these are the things that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people says, oh, migrants this, migrants that. And we all, as migrants, get put in the same basket. None of us is here trying to beg bread or to skive from or to scrunch off the government, especially when we come and sign on that dotted line to become a soldier to fight for country and queen and the people, which 90% of the people who don't understand, and listen to what I said, 90% of the people who don't understand, for people who just think, oh, migrant, not realizing the revenue that migrants who are paying for these things, like people from the Commonwealth. I'm not talking about people who come across on a dinghy. I'm not talking or come across on the back of a lorry. I'm not talking to them about those. I'm talking to people like me and the other people who join the army and get shafted pretty much. Now, back to the story. So my wife got put on a 2.5 year. Remember, she'd done 4 years already. 2.5 year expire. I had to pay for both of them. I think it was £1,700 each, including the NHS surcharge at the time. But what I did, and I didn't read the letter, so I said, by now she's here for 6.5 years. So when that 2.5 years expire on top of the 4, but because she's on it, and it's complicated, people, so bear with me. But because they now place her under the family and private life, I'm still in the army at this point. Remember that. I've got all the paperwork from my troop commander, my troop sergeant, a welfare office to send me that's back in document, my Venglong statements and all of that. Wife of a soldier, who is willing to die for queen and country. Because we signed on the line. Iraq and Afghanistan was hot at this time, And now you can say, well, you choose the job. Why do you expect to get special treatment? Yes, I do choose the job, and yes, I do love the job. I'm not looking for special treatment. I'm just thinking if you can put your life on the line for a country why should the country rob from you? Why should they, put you in a situation in which if you want to go Europe on a family holiday, you have to apply for a visa for your wife and child way in advance because they are on a different passport, even though you, as a foreign Commonwealth / British citizen fighting for Queen and country, doesn't make no difference. How can that happen? How and why does the government allow that to happen? It's like, don't you think the well-being and the welfare of your soldiers make a good soldier? Do you think if a person willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, do you think his family actually at least deserve some sort of freedom in this country? So back to the argument where at the end of the 2.5 years, what I did was apply it again, £1,700 each for indefinite, because it says, well, now she's here for 5 years. And this is when the Home Office write back to me and says she can't, and she won't get indefinite leave until 2023. Okay, 2023. She can't apply. That's when she's eligible for, because under the family and private life, under the family and private life aspect of this application. Okay. So I wrote to my MP. That didn't go nowhere. She came back saying the same thing that the Home Office said. Not that, because I wrote to her with the intention that she could have pleaded my cause. Like to say, well, but this man had served for us, he was injured, he was medically discharged from the military. He's now pretty much an invalid to a certain extent because he might have hands and foot and everything that you can see, was his injuries are unseen, and it is us who did that to him. So at least, help him out, give him a peace of mind so he can be comfortable somewhat. No, the MP at the time, I won't say any name, but if maybe in my other video, I'll say names, I'll start calling names. Said it's pretty much they can't do anything. Until I came across, well, that has been going on now. So when that other 2.5 year expired, by then the NHS surcharge has increased. So at this point, the NHS surcharge was now £1,000 each. By now, my wife, my son is working. He's almost 20 years old now, and everybody's contributing to a system that doesn't give back. So, just be careful. And I will continue to post. I will continue to try and shed light to enlighten my fellow service personnel coming from the Commonwealth, whether it doesn't matter where in the Commonwealth you're coming from. If you come here and married to a British-born person, again, your situation will be different. A lot of Commonwealth soldiers who came here, they, especially I realized that the Fijians, they never really got naturalized, they never paid that money, and they lived, and after they came out, they didn't do what they're supposed to do after the 2 years, and sometimes they get themselves in a rut in which they're on the deportation list because they didn't do the right thing at the time. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm going to cover that also. So like, share, and subscribe to my videos, before this one is ended. I don't want to make too much of a long video because I want you to understand what I'm talking about. So, but this is a lot. It's complicated. And the NHS surcharge only increases every year. Your visa fee now increased. The last time we paid over £2,000 per person, which was last year, March. And that's include visa fee and NHS surcharge. By now, my wife is living here about 11 years, 2009 till now. And she still have no resources or recourses to public fund. Everything we do, we have to do it ourselves. I've contacted the Commonwealth Office, which was helpful, but a bit too late, even though they did thorough investigation when I did my last application. But when I had to send off for resident permit, which is another 2.5 years. But what I found out is that under the long residency banner, with the 4 years that she'd done as my foreign and Commonwealth spouse, on top of the 6 years that she spent, that can class together as 10 years. That's the only way you can retrieve that 10 years that she had stayed. And nobody will tell you this, my brothers and sisters. Nobody will tell you this. You are on your own. Now, I'm only, trying to show you, as I said in my previous videos, I have contacted Soldier Mag. And I said, I'm not trying to sell a story. I'm just trying to let you help put this in your paper to highlight the problems that Commonwealth soldiers go through. I know of persons that just got their indefinite leave to remain the other day, and it cost them, the price for that was £6,000. £6,000 because they went in there in person, and they want the express to be done. And this was the wife, and this is the wife of a soldier, a guy that served and was medically discharged, saying, So people out there don't understand. They think, well, you wear the uniform, you're covered. Well, yes, as a person, as that individual is covered, but your wife and children aren't, especially. And these are the ones that haven't born in this country. So it's like, it makes me ask myself, should we have died? Because if we had died in battle, the media will take it up when it comes to deportation of our children and wife. And that's how the government would have jumped in and says, well, because of the pressure of the people, to say, oh, but that's not right because their husband, and they might keep it quiet and deport them in the middle of the night, because there's a lot of that goes on. And people would think, well, they've done something wrong in this country. They haven't. A lot of people who got deported hasn't done anything in this country. We're living in a housing association, and I'm getting personal. A matter of fact, I will leave that for another video. But when you have no right or no recourse to public fund, my son who came here at 8 years old, if he was supposed to go to university, it would have cost me, a foreign student, fee, 10 grand. I don't have 10 grand. The average British person cannot find £10,000. Man that is, or woman that is born and bred in this country for maybe, living here for the last 40, 50 years. A lot of people can't find £10,000. And I'd have to be finding that every year if my son wanted to go to university at the time. And when you look back and thought, whoa, I was yes sir boss, no sir boss. I was swearing in to defend Queen and country from domestic and foreign threat. And yet still, no one is defending me or helping me, meaning government-wise. Because it's like, we are forgotten. That's why I title my videos The Forgotten Soldiers. The forgotten Commonwealth soldier. This is not new. And now that I started looking into it, I've seen that a lot of this goes on over the years, back from World War I, World War II. My granddad fight fought and died in World War I. My grandma have the dead man penny. That's all they got. And he was British in the sense of a British subject. Comes right back to you if you look in Africa and some of these islands, where the Commonwealth Islands, you see a lot of forgotten soldiers. You don't hear about them. They whitewash them from history. So I go back to when I try to have the soldier mag, just print my story, talk about it, maybe a couple of paragraphs, just to enlighten young Commonwealth soldiers who are in my situation, who came here already married, so they don't end up in the same situation. No one will. You don't get immigration advice in the army. If they're doing it, it is now. But when I was in, because I'm a veteran now. And the funny thing is, I was so proud, and still is, to wear the uniform, to be a soldier. But yearly, next year, I don't know how much the fee will be. I have to find to make sure my wife and son got another what you call it, resident permit of 2.5 years. Remember, by then she'll be living here 12 years, 12.5 years. So for the Home Secretary, who is now in power, because all of this started under Theresa May. Same party, same conservative. Immigrant is immigrant, and it doesn't matter which immigrant you are. But remember, I stood up at attention, taking the oath, just like a lot of you do. I was willing to die, but look at me now. I have to be using this medium to get my story out there. Like I said, share this to your Commonwealth soldier friends. Share this to veterans and now serving soldier, whether they're Commonwealth or not. Soldiers are not allowed to take part in a political affiliation. But look at what we go through. Look at what we go through. This is Soldier G saying, like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned. Hit the bell icon. You know, I don't know how many views I'll get. I don't know how many subscribers I'll get. But I want the story to go out. Because there's so much more to say. And I'm here to forever help people not to get into my situation. And when you leave the army, you're forgotten. Remember that. You're brushed to the side and a pile that headed to nowhere but the skip. Unless you left the army as an officer or something. Apart from that, especially if you came out medically. You know? So, stay tuned for more video. I'll leave it here for now.